Come for our miles of pristine beaches and vibrant art scenes. Stay for our diverse cultural experiences. Plan your trip now, Miami and MiamiBeach.com. On this season of the Leading with Audacious Confidence podcast, we share stories from corporate executives and tips from those who coach them to high performance on what it really takes to build and keep your confidence in this fast-paced, ever-changing world of business, and how they inspire others to lead with confidence. Be ready to take lots of notes because there's always some juicy nuggets coming your way. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Leading with Audacious Confidence. I'm your host, Alicia Curry, and I brought this guest back because when we had him on before, it was so phenomenal. And I know there's so much more that he really helps leaders with that I wanted to bring him back and share some more juicy information with you. So I have back with me Brian Trazkos, and just as a refresher, I'll read you a little bit of the alphabet to share a little bit about Brian with you. So Brian Trazkos, PT, LMT, CSC, CMP, MIC, is a co-creator of sensation-based motivation coaching, a somatic trauma-sensitive methodology. Listen, this is like a mouthful. A somatic trauma. Say somatic trauma together 5 times fast, right? A somatic trauma-sensitive methodology, and has extensive experience in diverse clinical settings, ranging from cutting his teeth at the world-renowned Craig Hospital for TBI and SCI rehabilitation to operating his own integrative wellness center in upstate New York. Brian, I know I botched that, but welcome.
Thanks, Alicia. It's so great to be here again. Thank you very much for having me. It's so fun to be with you.
So the last time we got together, we talked about stress and trauma and the sympathetic and parasympathetic and how it affects us throughout our day in how we react and respond to our daily lives and the stresses in our lives. And today I wanted to not necessarily continue that particular conversation because I think we covered that so well. I want to talk about another part of the work that you do with leaders and with businesses around this assessment that we use called the Motivational Map. And I find it so fascinating. So that's why I brought you back on, because we didn't get a chance to touch on that. And I think it's so very important. So can you just share with everyone what the Motivational Map is and what is it actually, what is it assessing?
Right. So the Motivational Maps is an assessment, just like, you're saying how you take an assessment for a Kolbe or for Strength Finders or something like that. So it's that kind of assessment. And it assesses, well, I mean, you're an expert in this, Alicia, like really the parts of the brain, right? How the brain functions. Mm-hmm. We have that cognitive part of the brain that functions. We have the conative part of the brain that functions. And we have the affective part of the brain that also functions. So Motivational Maps primarily addresses and looks at the affective part of the brain. However, because it has been designed via 3 other concepts and theories. So the Motivational Maps is basically is an amalgamation of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, from Shine's career anchors, and also from the Enneagram work. Mm-hmm. So, the Enneagram work is really about cognitive and personality type traits and assessments. So that also informs the Motivational Maps as well. So you do get affective, you do get cognitive, some personality kind of cognitive traits get picked up in that as well. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of conative, not nearly as much as Kolbe kind of, right, functions, which you're a Kolbe expert. And I'm always interested in how Kolbe and Motivational Maps kind of
play together. Yeah, they play really well together.
It's kind of fun to kind of look at that in a lot of ways. So Motivational Maps really is kind of in the affective part of the brain, and measuring that part of the brain, which is kind of cool because it can change a little bit. And we do see changes in the assessment in a couple of ways primarily. Number one, we'll see the assessment change over time. If someone has a big life change, you'll see changes in what's important to them, what motivates them differently, you'll see.
Like,
we'll
for
also say
instance, you have a baby and all of a sudden, your defense moves up,
exactly your
or some,
defender
your
might come up
defender moves
because
up,
security
or
becomes more
security
important for you.
becomes more
Yep.
important than, yeah. So, yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah. And so our motivations can change based on our environment,
Mhm.
based on our life circumstances can change our motivators as well. A lot of the work we do with people is we work with someone who's maybe not fully satisfied with what they have going on in their world, say, right? And they're feeling de-energized, they're feeling demotivated, maybe they're even getting sick. Those
Yeah.
kinds of things are coming up. And so we do the motivational map assessment, and then we look at it and say, well, how does what's important to you motivationally match up with the environment that you're in?
With what you're actually doing. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
And then you have a choice. Sometimes the choice is to find a different environment. Sometimes people are like, oh my God, like I'm just not fitting in here and I need
Mhm.
to move on. And other times they say, you know what, I really want to be here. And for those people, we can actually help them consciously shift and change what motivates them.
Mhm.
Just tweak it slightly so that they actually have more energy by doing some coaching, some perceptual coaching around that. Some deeper kind of motivational coaching sorts of things. So the cool thing about the maps is it can both be a marker for how people change over time consciously, and or how when their environmental life changes over time, how it affects them motivationally. So I do like the dynamics of the tool are really cool when you
Yeah.
understand that that's kind of built into the affective world that people live in.
I love it. And it has so many practical purposes, and I'm going to ask you about the practical uses of it in a second, but I just wanted to frame, because you mentioned cognitive, affective, and conative parts of the mind and how that fits into it. Kathy Kolbe, who was the theorist behind the Kolbe method, theorized how our brain actually solves problems and strives when we're striving to do something. And so, to look at how that theory plays out, motivation is the first part of any problem solving action that your mind goes through, any striving action that your mind goes through. It's either intrinsic or extrinsic, but it has to start with motivation. And this is why I love Motivational Maps so much, because now we understand, what are you motivated by?
Yep.
To even start the process. Because
Mm-hmm.
motivation is really powerful too, because even though we have that process, motivation can be so strong that it'll override every other process that your brain goes through. And you can go
Yep.
from motivation straight to action and not even think about what you're doing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If a bear's chasing you, you don't have to stand there and think, well,
Yeah.
you don't have to go through the thought process of what do I do next? You're just gonna run.
You're just going to do it. Exactly.
You're
Yeah.
just gonna do it.
Yeah.
So motivation
Whether or
could
not it ends well or not. Yeah.
right. It could be so powerful. And of course, we're not always in bear chasing extreme conditions in our lives, but to understand what motivates you the most, so that when that shows up, other things kind of fall by the wayside. And then at the end of the day, you're wondering, well, what did I do? Oh, because I was motivated by this. I kind of push everything out off to the side.
Yep.
So I think that's really important part to understand how that whole process works. And I talk about that like in a lot of other places that you can go. If you go to our YouTube channel, you can check that out. You'll see I talk about the three parts of the mind and that actual process that the mind goes through using all three parts. But tell me something as a leader now. So I'm a leader in an organization. How does understanding these motivators help me with my team? Like, what do I need to look for? How does it help me?
Yeah. So at a very like if we just go down to the foundation basic level for a second, motivation is really about energy.
Mm-hmm.
That motivation by definition is the reason we move, like the reason we do something. That's the definition of motivation, our motive, reason for ation, for moving. And that all really has to do with energy. And when we're highly motivated, we have a lot of energy. When we are demotivated, we experience less energy. So I would think I would agree. I mean, I think most leaders would agree that when their teams have high levels of energy, that's kind of a prerequisite for like getting
Better
things done.
performance.
Yeah, better performance, right? Because it doesn't really matter how smart somebody is or how much they care about the work they do. If they don't have energy, how well are they going to perform?
Yeah.
Right. So energy is really like a prerequisite for being productive, being successful, being able to engage, being
Mhm.
right. So just from that alone, when you think about leaders wanting like fundamental things that they probably maybe they expect it naturally in their people,
Yeah.
and that's probably not like a reality that is just going to naturally show up for folks, especially look at the levels of disengagement that are historic over time with how
Yeah.
many, high percentage of people are disengaged in their work. Those numbers are climbing pretty dramatically right
Yeah.
now,
It's really, really
even
high right
more disengagement. So we can no longer think that people are just going to show up to work and be energized or motivated. So the very first thing we have to understand as leaders is if we're obviously looking at our folks and they don't have enough energy, how can we help them have more energy? Because now that actually has been incumbent kind of on the leaders and on the organization to help their people do that.
Yeah, and I love that you talk about energy because one of the the reasons this plays well with Kolbe with um the cognitive assessments too is because the cognitive assessment also helps you manage your energy, your mental energy, because that's your instinct, and your mental energy is kind of flows through your instincts. And so understanding what your mental energy and what your motivational energy is helps you do your best work. So that's at least I think so. That's my horn.
100%.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, that's it, right? That's a fundamental feature of being able to like be productive in life is to have enough energy to be productive in life.
Yeah. And when you understand this, when you understand where it's coming from,
Right.
at least I'm the type of person that when I have a why behind something, like I understand the process of something, it makes it so much easier to function in it. And oh, okay, that's why this is happening. Maybe I shouldn't do it that way. Maybe I should do it this way,
Right.
and get the best and the most out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, get a
Yeah.
second squeeze of that orange.
Yeah, 100%. And so, with leaders and why leaders kind of can really benefit from using this tool with their teams, quite frankly, is the motivational map is measuring what we call the full spectrum of motivation. So the full spectrum of motivation is when you understand the order of importance of someone's motivators,
Mm-hmm.
the intensity of each motivator, like how intense is that
Yeah.
importance?
How
One is the
loud is it?
order, but how loud is it? How important is that for the person?
Mm-hmm.
Or how unimportant it is for the person too,
Yeah.
quite frankly, right? I mean, you need to
Yeah.
know all of that. Also, inherent in these these 9 motivational elements that the maps measure, there is inherent actually conflict within some of those like some of those motivators don't actually play well together.
Mm-hmm.
So someone could be having internal conflict, and it can also be showing up in the team if one person has one high motivator that doesn't play well with another motivator. Oftentimes people say that folks have personality conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
We
Or
actually
that person rubs me the wrong way.
yeah, we actually see them as motivational conflicts rather than personality conflicts. It's not necessarily because personality is kind of like there's just like a hardwired thing in me
Mm-hmm.
that butts against a hardwired thing in you. And when we come from that perspective, we kind of close off the possibility of changing it.
Mm-hmm.
Where if we're looking at it from a motivational conflict, well, motivation is changeable. And when we start actually understanding what motivates somebody else and what motivates you, and you can look at both those things, you can say, oh, that's why we're both kind of rubbing against one
Mm-hmm.
another, because you understand the conflict. So we're
Mm-hmm.
measuring, and one more thing we're measuring too, is how well the environment kind of reflects your motivators.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, you could know all of your motivators really well. And however, if you're in an environment that does not accept or kind of feed your motivators, you're going to be demotivated.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
we can't like let that environment piece go. It's not, we don't live in bubbles. So we have to again match up. Hey, do my motivators actually match my environment, whether it's a work environment, whether it's a home environment, whether it's a social environment,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. And so we're really measuring those four things. And you have to know all four of those things to really help people understand what is really the drive of their energetic life. And when a leader understands one of their person's motivational elements, then they can specifically communicate to that person via their
Yes.
motivators, which is very motivating for somebody
Yeah.
because apparently someone feels seen and heard
Mm-hmm.
and valued
And
that way too,
valued.
because
Yeah.
you're taking the time to talk to them through their motivators in
Mm-hmm.
that way,
Yeah.
you know. And,
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And what you said about environment is so true, because as a searcher spirit, like in all the way up that they're tied for the first, I knew I couldn't work for nobody.
yeah, yep.
You're like, I cannot be in an office environment every single day in a cubicle or that is not the right environment for me to
Right.
be in. Yeah. Searcher spirit. Nuh-uh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need to do your own thing on your own time and carving your own path and doing it in a way that makes a difference for a lot of people, right? And so that's you had to, and to be constrained by that would be like you'd feel like you're
Demotivating.
hamstrung or like you got reins on you or you're in a straitjacket or something like
Yeah.
that. So it'd be
Yeah.
very demotivating for you and probably very frustrating too to be in that type of environment.
100%. Absolutely. Because then creator is the next thing. So if somebody's just telling me to do this, this, and this, and I don't have any creativity within it,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then now when I layer Colby on top of that as a quick start,
Mm-hmm.
I know when we're starting to talk all kinds of gibberish to people who don't know Colby or motivational maps. I'm going to get to that. What are the motivators? But before I do that, I wanted to ask you: are there any socioeconomic, gender, race categories that are patterns within these motivators? Have the research show any kind of commonality in those things?
Um, I haven't seen any research from necessarily from socioeconomic strata around
Mm-hmm.
that. We definitely a lot of the research has been broken down kind of by occupation. Like,
Okay.
certain occupations will kind of show up with certain motivational profiles, whether
Mm-hmm.
they're CPAs, whether they're in healthcare, whether they're
Entrepreneurs.
executives, entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the research has been broken down, really by occupational
And the
types.
reason I ask that, because this, some people will have their resistance to assessments because of a particular socioeconomic, but
Sure.
most of those are cognitive assessments.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to lay that, make that clear that this is not, this can be used in a DEIB
Oh yeah. Yep.
scenario, because it does not discriminate based on socioeconomic, race, gender, age. It's what are you motivated by? And it's the same thing with
Yep.
Colby. It's not, there's no distinctions there that you can say, well, this particular group measures this way and this group measures that way. So there's no bias,
Right.
zero
Yeah.
bias in it.
Totally. Yeah. This is really a self-reflective tool. There's no comparison to anybody else when you take this tool. It's really more, really looking at your motivational patterns. And we've had several people we've worked closely with, DEI professionals who've taken the assessment and really loved it and said, hey, this is really what an amazing tool for us to use in our work. And they've had us kind of partner with them to bring this measurement into their work and their DEI work, that they've really enjoyed it and felt like it really reflects the individual really, really well,
Mm-hmm.
and accurately in that way. So we've been
Yeah.
really pleased with that reception that we've had.
Awesome. And because there are so many, we're so multifaceted. I always say you can't just take one assessment and think, you know who
Correct.
that
Yep.
person is. Because we show up, we have all these nuances to ourselves. And so that's why I love taking multiple assessments, because it shows up in different ways.
Yep.
And as a leader, I feel understanding myself even multiple in multiple ways. Like I wouldn't say, oh no, I don't want to take this assessment because I've already taken this assessment. It's about really understanding what that assessment measures and why you want that data from that assessment. How is that data going to be used to improve what you're doing? So don't be resistant to assessments. It just depends on what you're trying to measure and how effective you can be with the data after the fact.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what these motivators are.
Sure. So motivational maps is going to, again, you take the assessment, you answer a bunch of questions, and after you answer all these questions, it goes into the magic, Willy Wonka machine kind of thing, and out pops all these answers. And the answers are categorized into what we call 3 primary clusters of motivation first. So the 3 primary clusters are the relationship cluster, the achievement cluster, and the growth cluster. And what that means is the growth cluster kind of signifies that someone is really about growth. So they're about becoming better than they are right now. So this is about the individual really being motivated by them becoming a better self, like them becoming improved, them becoming deeper knowledge base, so like kind of those kinds of things. Bringing me, freedom and impact and meaning are really important. A person that kind of has a high growth motivator cluster. The achievement cluster is really about living in the present moment, overcoming challenges, meeting goals, meeting deadlines, kind of like getting the work done sort of thing. And then the relationship cluster is really about as far as a timestamp is concerned, like growth is about the future, achievements in the present, and relationships about the past, because relationships are really built on familiarity, belonging, connection. Like, so for people who have a high growth motivator, high relationship motivator, they're going to be really energized by deeper and more fulfilling connections that happen to be interpersonal with people, right?
So and that doesn't, and again, sorry for interrupting, but that's not about, again, whether you're introverted or extroverted. This has nothing to do with that. This is like, whether you're introverted or extroverted, do you crave deeper relationships with people than just surface relationship?
Totally. Yep. Absolutely. So, and again, then there's no right or wrong, good or bad, up or down with taking any of the assessments at all. In fact, when we work with people, we say our goal is to help you understand your motivators so that you can create the environment in life that motivates you, and to really have permission to step into your own motivators, rather than trying to change what motivates you, because everybody's tried to do that, and then we try to change ourselves and we're miserable and we're not motivated, and they wonder why I can't change, and I want to beat myself up for it, and all those kinds of things. And what we're really doing is saying, hey, this is you, like this is what motivates you, and give you permission to really step into that. And as far as being confident, because we're here talking about audacious confidence, right? What I really feel like, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, but what I really think about, like an element of being authentically confident is really stepping into what motivates you. Like those work together, right? They live together.
Yeah. When I took mine, I did mine twice. I've done it in consecutive years just to see, because I was working on some stuff to see if I was able to bring up some motivators. But my top 3 and my bottom 3, my top 3 didn't move at all. I'm always going to be searcher, spirit, creator. Those top 3, that's it. And my bottom three, they did shift a little bit, but they stayed in the bottom three.
Bottom three, yeah.
like they didn't, and the middle three, they shifted a little bit, but they stayed in the middle three. So,
yeah.
So I think I'm pretty consistent in how I'm motivated. But it also gave me permission. And this is one of the things that assessments help build your confidence with, because it gives you permission to be you.
Yeah, totally.
Like I don't have to try so hard to be a star, for instance, that's in my bottom three, because I'm not a star. Well, you know, in my own mind, I'm a star.
Yeah, you're a star. But you're a star.
But what I mean is, like, I don't have to be motivated by getting accolades and getting attention and being the center of attention. I'm not motivated by that. I'm motivated to make an impact. I'm motivated to have freedom and to create things that help other people. And so as long as I stay in my lane and I keep doing that, then the other things, you know, will show up. And that gave me the freedom to say, impact is my thing. Let me keep making an impact, because that's what fuels me. That's what brings me joy. That's why I do these podcasts and these shows, because I want to bring the information to impact other people's lives. So when you do some of these assessments, it's actually giving you the freedom to be you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the idea of permission giving, right? So you can really say, hey, this is me. And I can I'm going to live in that way. So back to the motivators. So there's 3 clusters. And there's 3 motivators in each cluster. So there's 9 motivators overall. And here's the thing, we all have all 9. However, they're in different orders of importance, different degrees of intensity, different levels of opposition, and different levels of satisfaction. Okay, so when you look at it that way, actually there's over 2.5 million different outcomes for the motivational maps. So they're pretty nutted down, right? They're pretty individualized. If you really take the assessment sincerely and you really kind of go through it and you really show up as you in the assessment, it's going to be pretty accurate in terms of what motivates you. All right, so there's 3 motivators in each cluster. So the relationship, do you want to go through each of them quick?
Yes, okay. Please.
So in the relationship cluster, we have the defender, the friend, and the star. So the defender motivator is, so think about it like this first. If for each one of these elements, if the environment is present for that person, they'll have more energy. So the defender is motivated by security, predictability, and stability. That's what that element means. So theoretically, if someone had a very high defender motivator, they would love working on an assembly line. Right? Kind of like, I mean, is that totally true? No, but let's just use a stereotype to kind of help set the stage for what this means. So that the person with a high defender, when they walk into the environment, it's predictable every day. They're like, oh my God, they love it. They have so much energy. They feel more energized. They feel more alive. Oh my God, it's exactly the same. Awesome. Came in today. Yes, my cup was in the same spot. My desk looked exactly the same. I know I'm going to have a phone call at 11. I know I'm going to have a phone call at 12. I know, like they know everything that's going to happen all day long. So for them, like that high, and it's every day, day after day after day, they just get more and more energized. Now for a spirit, that would just like totally
I'm starting to break out in the sweats
just thinking about it, right?
Just hearing you say that.
Yeah. But for the defender motivator, like that's real. Like that would give them more energy to have that really highly stable and secure environment. Like have a paycheck they know is coming every month. They know that like, no, I know, no, not no, N-O, but K-N-O-W. Like they know everything's happening. So the friend motivator gets more energy from being in an environment where there's a strong sense of belonging, kind of like of tribe, of deep connection. Yeah. So that's about the friend. The star motivator gains energy from being recognized, from having status, from prestige, those types of things. So that's the relationship category. Go over to achievement, the achievement cluster. We have the director motivator. So the director gains motivation from having actually more responsibility. We like to say that the director is like the quarterback on the field. They love to know where everybody needs to be. They love to tell them when to go there. they kind of like love holding the clipboard and like keep a track of everybody. And no, you got to do that differently. Like kind of those kinds of that's so more responsibility, more influence, more power is kind of
the
like
conductor of the orchestra.
Exactly, right. That the director, the director. So those people are more energized with the more control that they have. The builder motivator, which is also in the achievement thread, is really motivated by affluence. So money is a form of affluence, but also kind of like rich experiences. It could be like, flying first class lounge, a luxury car, the best mountain bike, or it could also be cash. But if there's something affluent about the builder really loves to, they're motivated by affluence, okay? Mm-hmm. All right. So the next one is the expert. So the expert is motivated by mastery, skill, specialization, deeper knowledge, those kinds of things. Okay. So that's the achievement group. Now the growth cluster, which apparently your top three, you're all growth.
All growth.
Right. You're all growth.
All right.
So you have the creator. The creator is motivated by innovation, by changeability, by coming up with new stuff, sort of stuff. Okay. I always think about like Steve Jobs was probably like very high creator, like it's strong innovator. And then you have the spirit. So the spirit motivator is like, don't tell me what to do. They're like trailblazers, pioneers, like I'm going to do it my way, really about autonomy and freedom, self-independent kind of thought, kind of stuff. That's the spirit. And then finally the searcher. So the searcher is motivated by making an impact in other people's lives, making a big impact for other folks. Meaning and purpose are really important for searchers. So those are the individual motivators in each group. And so when I share those 9 motivators with people, there's probably people listening right now that say, oh, well, I know what mine are. And I know what somebody else is. And I want to put a pause button on that for a second, because the research is pretty clear. And we've done this at conferences. We've done like, hey, guess what yours are? And what do you think they are? Put your hand up and then reveal them. Put your hand up again with, hundreds of people. Got it all right. And here's the thing, less than 20 people, or less than 20% of people can accurately predict their own top 3 motivators. Yeah. Right. So less than 20% can, and less than 5% of people can accurately predict their own top 3 motivators in order. Yeah. So it's not only that only, 20% of people know themselves well enough to pick their top 3. But way less than that can pick them actually in the right order. Order. And because we show up differently too sometimes. You can't predict someone else's motivator based on just observation of their behavior all the time, because sometimes we show up based on the environment, not necessarily based on what we're motivated by. Exactly. Yeah. And so it gets pretty complicated or complex when we start thinking about it. And here's the other thing too, Alicia, we know if you don't know someone else's motivators, humans by default will project our motivators onto them. Mm-hmm. We'll just project their motivators onto it. So say you're a high searcher. So meaning and purpose is really important to you. And you might meet somebody, you're working with them, and you've already projected meaning and purpose on that must be one of their high motivators. Now, if it's not, and they're behaving in such a way where they don't seem to be motivated to make an impact for other people because they're not motivated by it, and there's no right or wrong for anything, what we'll do is be like, what is wrong with you? Yeah, like, I have a relationship in my life. Motivated by impact, and you're like, we project it, right? We project it onto people. I have to tell you, I have a relationship in my life. I'm not going to say who it is, but that is it me? Is it me? No, it's not you. Just kidding. But and you just cautioned not to do this, but I'm doing it just as an example, because this person is really very stable and predictable and likes things very, in that way. And I've known them for like more than half my life. And so I've spent a lot of time as a searcher spirit. What is wrong with you? How do you not see this? Because I'm all growth. And I believe this person is all relationship, so my relationship, the defender and the spirit, kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I need to have them do that and see. And I have to do it kind of like in a subtle way. Why don't you take this assessment?
Yeah, let's try this one. I got a present for you.
About it. Just to confirm whether or not their top defender is within their top three.
Yeah. And and the cool thing, Lisa, is that when you see that, um, you're like, oh, that makes sense.
That makes total sense. And that's why
And
when
then
I saw it for me,
all of a sudden we accept it
we
because
accept
it's
it.
like, well,
I
there
saw it
it
in
is.
black and
Okay,
white, and I'm
that makes
like,
sense.
oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now I understand why the and the conflict, because it's the same thing with Colby when we show people why there's cognitive conflict. It doesn't have to get into personality, or we don't have to get into the being offended by it or thinking something's wrong with them or something's wrong with us and get into the blame game or anything like that. We're just dealing with this issue, and we could deal with this issue now cognitively, making sense. Like we can have this cognitive conversation that doesn't get into the personal and the feelings.
Yeah, totally. Right. And that's really cool. We can look at it really, really objectively, or much
Yes.
more objectively that way, because it's almost like we're taking this piece of paper and putting it out here. And it's almost like, oh, well, let's look at the piece of paper. Let's look at the people on paper, and you're the people looking
Yeah.
at them. But somehow it removes it
The personal.
from the personal. And you can
Mm-hmm.
actually look, oh my, so how can we actually work together with these motivational elements or with the Colby elements as you're looking at it?
Mm-hmm.
And we found that
How can
so
I borrow
helpful.
some of your friend that I don't have to help
Yeah.
me build better relationships with customers? So if you're a
Yep.
salesperson and you have a low friend motivator, then find someone with a higher friend motivator on the sales team that you could say, how do I follow up better? How can I advance this relationship? Get tips from people who have that as a natural motivator if you
Yep.
don't. So I think that's leaders listening, I think that's the most important thing to understand when you do some of these assessments with the team, is for people to understand each other on a much deeper level so that we can work in community together, and I can ask you to help me here where I have less of that energy, so that I'm not depleting my energy trying to do this and getting frustrated by it.
Yep. You're making such a really great point here, Lisa, even when it comes to like sales teams. So, and this is like why on teams this is so great, because when you do have diversity of leadership or diversity of motivators on your team, sales team again, if you have one person has a really high relationship
Affluence.
driver, right?
One
Well,
builder.
most sales teams have high affluence,
Have I? Yeah.
and anyway, which is kind of like a marker for a sales professional. Sometimes people do these assessments before they bring new people on to see like where they are, sort of
Yeah.
thing. But if you have a team and one person is really high relationship motivator, that person is going to be motivated to cultivate the long-term relationships with the clients and with the prospects and those types of things. And if you have someone else on the team who has a high expert motivator, they're going to be really motivated to educate, right?
Mm-hmm.
To educate the people, where the relationship motivator might not have that. They might not be interested in educating. They might be interested in like taking them out to dinner and talking, and hey, how's your wife, and how are your kids
And the
doing, and
kids, yeah.
what's happening with the
What's the dog?
dog, and how's school
Exactly.
going,
All this.
kind of stuff. And some with high experts can be like, wait, I want to educate them on our new product lines, our new those kinds of things. And so when you understand that, you can actually start to ask people on your teams more specifically the roles that they're really motivated to do. And that's the way you make a team kind of operate as one organism, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you're differentiating the tasks out based on really what motivates them, and then everybody's more motivated, everybody's happier, everybody's more engaged, and they're not doing the roles that they don't want or feel fit to do,
Or that
sort of
just
thing, right?
drains them. Yeah.
It just drains
And
them.
it just drains them. I mean, I know I'm wrapping this up in a moment, but relationship. My friend is like really low, right?
You're a good
I love
friend,
you
though.
all. Those of you who are my friends, I love you all. But you know why this is why it's hard for me to like just sit and text everybody and how are you doing? What's going on? I mean, the journey I had just been through, right, in my health. And so when I got a particular result recently, I'm like sitting there thinking, and I'm, oh, who else do I have to tell? Oh my gosh. And it's like I spend the whole day trying to remember who do I need to let them know about this thing. And so that was a task for me to do.
Yeah.
And I always used to think, when I would do something extraordinary, like when I started booking myself on TV, I'm like, why wouldn't I make relationships with the producers and stuff? Like, I would feel like I'm bothering them and not call and see how things are going. It's just not innate in me to make these relationships. And I need to work on that. But I also understand why I'm not motivated to do it. I know why I'm not motivated to do it. And I understand that I have to make the effort to do it, to make relationships with people. But it's not because I don't love people. It's not because I don't love, just so you know, it's not because I don't love you.
It just doesn't, it takes energy, right? It's draining energetically for you.
Yeah.
It totally takes energy. Yeah. I get the same thing. So if I send you a text and say, hey, Elisa, tell me all about how you're feeling and that kind of stuff, like, I'll just get a thumbs up back from you, right? Like, how are you doing? Thumbs up.
I'm great.
Right. Okay, great.
Like, all is well.
Cool. Like I'm good. So that's what you're going to send back, is just a thumbs up. It's not going to be a long dissertation about all this stuff, because you have enough energy to send a thumbs up. You know, and that's kind of how I am too. How I am too. So people ask me, you're like, oh my God, how's it going on? I give a thumbs up. And they're like, that's all I get? I'm like, yeah, that's all I have.
That's all I got. All I have. But I will get on the phone. Like, if you call me, I get on the phone. We'll have a conversation and stuff. But most of the times it's I have to try to remember, oh, I need to call this one. And when I remember it, I try to do it right away. Otherwise it's gone. It's like, I get into my day and it's completely gone. So I try to be more cognizant. I am working on it, people. I'm working on it, on being more responsive and reaching out. Well, that's why social media is good, though.
Yeah.
I get to post something or watch what someone else is doing and just give a heart or a thumbs up. See, that's easy for me to do.
Yeah, that's easy. Yep, exactly.
And I stay connected.
One of the cool things when we look at the motivators, especially what we call the executive summary, the relationship between the clusters, growth, achievement, relationship. When we look at all those and where they line out, we can actually tell some pretty cool things. Number one, we can tell how much energy is it going to take for someone to actually make a tweak, like what you're saying. Like, is it? And if it's going to take too much energy to make a tweak, that's going to be too demotivating. We can actually say, hey, you know what? Here's the thing. It's going to be better for you actually to bring somebody onto your team that has that as a high motivator to fill in for you.
Right.
And like, that's what we've had to do on our team is because both Ani and I have pretty lower relationship motivators. We love people. Yeah. We love educating. We love making a difference. We love,
and you love making deep relationships with people. You just don't remember to call them.
It just takes energy to do it. Yes. I mean, the thing is, I always like to joke. I say, I'm the kind of person who thinks about people on their birthdays, but I never send the birthday card. And so that's like a high growth, like really caring, meaning a purpose, but energy to actually send it. My relationship driver is too low. So we actually bring people on that really who have high relationship drivers that love really taking care of people. And it's really transformed our business in a lot of ways. And that's something we work on when we do with teams and leaders. And we can say, hey, is this something that you can tweak? Or is it just better to bring somebody on to help the team and your organization perform better, to bring somebody on to do that who actually loves doing it?
Like I would imagine healthcare workers are high in relationship motivators.
So actually some are
like the ones that take care of the elderly, like in
Yeah, so more long-term care, you're going to see more relationship. Most healthcare workers are high searcher, of course, and also the higher up healthcare workers are high expert, as you would imagine, right? Become better and better at what they do. But you're right, long-term care folks are really have a higher relationship. Yep.
Yeah. All right. I said it wasn't going to be this long, but it turned out, I just get to
time flies when I'm with you.
Time just flies too fast. But I love this conversation because, like we said, the motivational maps and you guys are like a handful of practitioners here in the United States, right?
Yeah. We're just 1 in 5 or 6 practitioners here in the States that are licensed to do this work. So, yep.
That's amazing. So if you want to learn more about Brian, how can people reach you to know more about the motivators? Or you can just reach out to me.
Yep.
I'll connect you. But
yeah, the best way to find us is at motivationbeyondmeasure.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. I'm not going to do the rapid fire because we did that before, so you don't have to repeat that. But I just thank you so much for this conversation. I love it.
Thanks, my friend. So good to be here with you again.
All right. So leaders, go out there and lead yourselves, lead your teams, and lead your organization with audacious confidence. I'll see you again on the next episode of Leading with Audacious Confidence. Bye.